because, you know, class doesn't start in a week. Again, we ask students to apply early, basically just to, again, get everything processed in time, make sure they get in classes, things like that. High school guest students, which I will explain what those are if you don't already know. We want them to apply at least 1 week prior to the start of classes. Then, again, we accept applications fall, spring, summer semesters. They must be fully admitted in order to receive financial aid. And really to be invited to, we have some competitive scholarship competitions. They have to be fully admitted to get in for those. When I say our merit-based scholarship awards, what that is in a sense our general scholarship pool. But it's called the Freshman Merit Scholarship. And I'm assuming financial aid went over that in very much detail. So I'm going to keep going. Non-degree students, including high school and college guests, are not eligible for financial aid. So we'll go into a little more detail on those types of students. And again, we'll cover the timeline here in a second, but basically you would expect to hear an admissions decision in about 2 weeks. So, all right. So basically, again, looking at the types of students that this office serves, we admit degree-bound college freshmen and transfer students, as well as non-degree students that don't really have a degree objective in mind. And all students, again, have to go to that wichita.edu/apply, and they all have to submit the fee. And then basically, after that point, it's all about transcripts, except for some open admissions. And we want to see all your high school and all your college work. So one of the things you run into is a lot of times students don't want some credit getting on their file because they did really badly, still have to see it. It is kind of grounds for dismissal if you're not honest on all of your institutions that you've attended. So even if you did really bad at a couple classes at a community college, you still have to see that because honestly we're going to see it on another transcript anyway. So we're pretty much going to find out no matter what. So a lot of times students have holds at other institutions as well. So for example, they need to pay a bill and they say, you know, I want to get admitted, but I can't get this transcript because I have a bill. And you just have to kind of apologize and see if that institution will work on maybe a payment plan or something, because we still have to see an official transcript from that institution.
Do students have to send things like transcripts from a technical school that they know aren't going to count for college credits?
You gonna answer? You're gonna answer.
I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna let you tackle that.
Yeah, students have to send their transcripts from any accredited university. And so some technical schools are not accredited. However, it would be an escalation if they have a question probably, because there's a book that we have to look for the school in some cases, because sometimes it's a school in another state. We don't know. We know the schools in Kansas pretty easily that are accredited, not accredited. And some of them will say it is, but it has to do with a national accreditation. And so it's a very good question. It's common. But in most cases, that would be an escalation just because it's going to be a specific, we have to look up that school. I say this being the person who used to do it all the time, and I would have to research schools and look up websites and find accreditations and all that kind of
Like a
stuff.
cosmetology school.
Most likely not accredited, but
Still have to ask.
good thing to check.
Yeah. And that's why I let Lisa answer that question, because she used to do that all the time. So for example, there are a couple of technical schools in Wichita. Some are accredited, some are not. So I even still get them confused sometimes.
Yeah,
So,
and technical school, like if they just say it, Wichita
Yeah.
Area Technical College in Wichita is now an accredited
Yep.
community college.
Yep.
So just because it says technical school, don't assume that they don't need it.
Yep. All right, so then basically from fall 2014, students who are applying this fall have to submit all transcripts, just as a blanket statement. But once you get into spring and later, you get into that kind of self-reported that I was talking about earlier on the application. So, and I don't remember if this is later as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and cover it now. Basically, with that self-reported, again, they're self-reporting their high school transcript and their test scores pretty much. So basically, we don't have to see those transcripts or those test scores until basically after they graduated and they're getting ready to come. Basically, it saves us processing time. It saves the student time. They, have a little bit more time when they're filling out the application, but on the short end, they're getting admitted sooner because we are not having to wait on a transcript, which if you start getting phone calls soon, you'll learn that that's what a lot of phone calls are. Have you received my transcript? Where are you at? Like, that happens all the time. So we're trying to kind of cut down on that, processing time. So basically, students can get admitted sooner because they're self-reporting those things. But we still have to see them to verify everything. So for example, if a student gets admitted fall 2015, they self-reported their high school grades, their test scores, they get financial aid, they get a scholarship, and then we see their final 8G transcript that has their graduation date on it, has all their final grades on it, and their official ACT, SAT scores, and something's off. We're going to look into that because hopefully, and what we have found from other institutions that are doing this, is that it's just a typo. They accidentally typed something wrong. So that's a little bit different. But if students are purposely being dishonest, we can pull everything from them. We can pull their admission, we can pull their financial aid, their scholarships, everything. And that's why in the application and on here you'll see failure to report, all previous institutions, but as well as correct high school grade information can be dismissed. Those students can be dismissed. So it's important to make sure the students, we are encouraging students just as we talk to them to say, it might be helpful to have a transcript on hand. While even if it's unofficial, that you have access to on hand when you're filling out the application. Because it can be helpful so they don't get confused, they don't forget that they got a C in chemistry rather than a B. Things like that. All right, moving on. This is kind of the timeline. So this is where we're trying to cut down with that self-reported. But the important thing to keep in mind, each piece of an admissions file can take anywhere from 5 to 7 days to process. So that basically means it can take 5 to 7 days to process the application, 5 to 7 days to process the fee, 5 to 7 days to process the transcript, and every transcript. So that's why a lot of times students get frustrated because they say, well, I did this, I submitted my application, all that good jazz. Well, we're still waiting on a transcript. Or we might have the transcript, but we're still working on processing it. So sometimes students get slightly frustrated. That's why, we say you should receive a decision within 2 weeks, but that can be kind of fluid depending on how many transcripts a student has. For example, we sometimes have students who have international transcripts, which is a whole nother, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just a whole nother process in and of itself. But basically, international transcripts, we have to have not only the original official, we have to have an official translated copy. Then once we do that, we then send it over to international education for them to process and make sure it's legit, it's good to go, all that good jazz. So that obviously takes a lot of time. You're including so many different pieces and offices in that, so it does take more time. So again, it just kind of depends on the student, how many transcripts they have, how difficult it is for them to get those transcripts, how they send the transcripts by mail, electronically, things like that. Basically, they can contact us at any time, or now you guys, at any time to find out where they're at in the admissions process through the IVR and the admissions tracker. So basically helping those students, so they're kind of in on the process. We do send out a communication, basically telling them if we're missing anything. We call those students in-process students, and basically if they're missing anything, we'll send out an email. Actually, every 2 weeks, we are sending out an email basically saying, we're still missing this, we're still missing this, and we'll continue to bug them every 2 weeks to see if we can't get that information that we need. It's also a great way that if students decide they don't want to come or whatnot, it's a great way for them to contact us and say they're not coming. Also, once they do get admitted, they then receive not only admissions letter, but an admissions email as well, telling them congratulations, here's your student ID, here's where you go from here. All right. Any questions about the timeline? Okay.
Chrissy, we had a question yesterday, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
If we see the status, say that the student's calling in
Mhm.
and they haven't received anything as far as their admissions decision, and
Okay.
we see in here that it says accepted,
Yes.
are we allowed to provide that information to them, or do we tell them that they'll, that they will receive something official in the mail?
Well, accepted on what you see is not accepted on what it means. Accepted is something with Sims. That accepted does not mean are accepted.
Oh, what does that
Accepted for
mean?
other schools, because sometimes admissions has to be accepted by the student. Like, we're offering admission, or other schools will offer admission and the student will say, I accept that. Or I accept and I'm coming. That's not what it means at Wichita State. We just assume everyone loves us, and if we admit them, they're going to come to Wichita State.
Okay.
So it's not quite the same. What you're looking at is A1, and there's some students, we're doing a KB article for you on that.
Okay.
Because there's a code that means that student is admitted, that's what's reading in Sims, so we're just gonna write you an internal article that you can read. You can say, yes, yes, you're admitted, you should receive your letter and or your email very soon.
And the email's like a day,
Yeah.
like at tops.
So you can say that, but there's a chance somebody could call in and they got admitted that morning or something like that. You can tell them that, you just can't tell them their student ID number.
Okay.
Yeah, and it kind of goes along the lines of denials.
Mhm.
So if a student is denied,
Fun with
it's
that.
never a great conversation. I think it's like a rite of passage when you work in admissions offices having your first denial phone call. It's terrifying and it's saddening. Basically though, a lot of times with our denials, we offer what's called the acceptance process. It's kind of a, try again type deal. Once they are denied, they get a letter, not an email, just a letter explaining that they were denied, usually why they're denied, along with extra paperwork on the acceptance process, what it is, what they need to fill out. I would say that might end up into an escalation because a lot of times students are like, why? I want to know why. Or you get those that are sometimes like, I want to talk to your boss about why I was denied. So I've had a few of those too. So we do have people in our office that work very closely with the acceptance process and also those denied students. So we like to find the silver lining, tell them, hey, there is an acceptance process that you can definitely work on. There's extra paperwork. Basically, it's you send in this paperwork to us. There are some deadlines for those exceptions usually, and basically it allows the student to explain to an acceptance committee, this is why I think I was going to be a great student at Wichita State, even though I do not meet these official, initial admissions requirements. This is why I think I would still be a great student at Wichita State. So, any questions on that? So, I know I was explaining how the timeline and how it's kind of a, hit and miss type thing. Like I said, 5-7 days on each piece usually. However, normally within 2 weeks you should find something out. So, I'm going to do a pop quiz. If you'll hit the next slide. So, who can tell me how admissions applications are processed? And y'all cannot.
Sorry.
All right. Yes, pretty much. That is the correct answer.
What'd she say?
And-
Say it louder.
You can go down first. Basically, as they come in.